was doing game-based learning and honestly trying to defend the practice to my colleagues, I started down the rabbit hole of pursuing how do I prove that these methods actually work. I see it in my classroom, but since my colleagues aren't there, they don't know. And so it didn't seem too far out of my way to take some educational courses as well. And thus we landed here. Mr. Ken Cozier, who was called Mr. Cozy by students, was my supervisor for this practicum. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, sends his regrets. And I'm quite sad that he wouldn't be able to make it, because I think the experience and the enthusiasm, he has about 20 years of experience in the classroom, that he could share and the perspectives that he could present to you would have been at least as valuable as anything I could say today. As I said, I've had some experience using game design in a classroom. I did it for my undergrads in political science, and this was in a junior high school in Edmonton, Alberta. And if we were to code it in sort of LARP theory or LARP jargon, it would have been an indoor type of parlor LARP with no touching. And this was in the spring of 2017. Mr. Cozy gave me 3 parallel grade 9s to teach. One of them being, in fact, a special needs class, which was about 10 students. That had some very interesting implications and challenges in itself. I had not had too much experience with students with those situations that they brought into the classroom. Altogether, there were just about 80 of the students that I had. Basically, what I was given, the Alberta's Program of Studies tells teachers what they are supposed to teach in a classroom. There's a whole catalog of central concepts that you have to teach to the students. You're not supposed to deviate from that too much. So the syllabus, if you will, was set for me. And the unit was issues for Canadians, economic systems in Canada and the United States. And therefore, it might be interesting that I wasn't actually doing anything that was in contemporary Canada or the United States. Instead, we went to the world after everything had ended. But it brings out that sometimes when you want to teach things and simulate things, you want to simplify them to bring out the processes more clearly. And when you look at the actual core concepts that the program of study tells teachers that they have to teach, it's very basic economics. It doesn't really have to have the label Canada and the United States. The reason it has that, of course, is that students are in Canada and they live next to the United States. These are the realities that they're used to. And if you look in the textbook, it talks about mixed market economy and free market economy, because it's the classic sort of traditional ways that the public space is talking about the contrast between the two countries. So when it says we're comparing Canada and the United States, it's really talking about different modes of market economies. So the key point is, what are some types of economies? That's what I was set to teach. And that's sort of what I brought out there. I'll get back to the results here, but they were quite engaged. And I'll tell you more about that when I get to the details of the experience. However, I'm not sure that what we did actually did fulfill the 3 criteria that, how do I pronounce it? Mochocki? I'm not sure. I haven't. Mochocki.
That sounds.
Mochocki. The 3 criteria for good edu-larp. And I'll tell you why a little bit. I mentioned that the unit introduces basic economics concepts. And to move the unit to a post-apocalyptic scenario, I mean, it's dramatic for 9th graders, right? That's part of the attraction and the motivation. Now we're in the Mad Max world, if you will. I'm not sure if they hadn't seen Mad Max, and I'm not sure if I would want to. Well, grade 9, 15, I guess that's okay. But it's parents have to judge. But it sets the stage for something dramatic, which can be more adventurous and appealing, I suppose. I used Mutant Year Zero, the role-playing now. How many have heard of that one? Okay, a few. The funny part is I never actually played Mutant Year Zero myself. I got the rule book, and I felt this would work perfectly for what I'm going to do in the classroom. And I've been wanting to play it, but I've had other projects get in the way. The role-playing game has these 3 dimensions of play that translates really well to this particular learning course. Having player characters, which you will see in any given tabletop role-playing game, and LARPs. But also these 2 levels of base management, where the players start out as survivors in the post-apocalyptic world, but they live together in a community, and the food has just run out. So now they have to emerge into that wild outside, but at the same time develop their own shelter and make it more and more sophisticated over time. And that's codified in this tabletop role-playing game. So in the tabletop game, the characters would go out into a map and roll for what they can find in those different map grids, and slowly but surely use the resources they find to build their own base and make it more sophisticated in terms of defense or food supply and so on and so forth. So it makes for a really good economic simulation, really, because it's about scarcity, and economics is about scarcity. These are the key concepts, the key tools that I used and designed for this. This was not designed by me, it was designed by my wife, she's the graphic designer. And it's really Edmonton after the apocalypse, if you will. Mutant Year Zero does have advice for how you can take any given city, your own city, and process it through Photoshop. And since my wife's Photoshop skills are much better than mine, I asked her and said, please, and she agreed. You will see here that I've marked it, and this is a result of the actual play. The first thing that happened, I'm kind of jumping here in the narrative, which you'll notice in the slides, but bear with me. The first thing on day 1 that when we started the unit that we did was that I had the students choose where they would put their so-called art. That's another term from the tabletop game. Their shelter. And I had designed it so that all 3 of the classes would be in the same world. So in this post-apocalyptic Edmonton, there were 3 shelters for these classes, and they had the potential of running into each other. It was quite interesting to find that 2 of the classes then decided to set up their bases just next to each other. And I was kind of wondering how really south this would go really fast if they chose to make. Mr. Cozy made some comments about this. This can go badly if they decide to bring out, someone finds a machine gun as part of their artifact role, and then start to go to town on the other part. But that didn't happen. Instead, there was a great deal more collaboration than apparently he was aware. But these green check marks show where they had been exploring. So as we went on, I used this map, and this was really, I put it in Roll20. So I had 3 Roll20 accounts going, and I would show them their part of the map that they had been exploring. And they would go out into these areas and try to see if they could find food or machines left from the civilization before them, and use that to improve their settlement. This would be the character sheet. And basically what all these attributes and skills did was to drive the exploration of how scarcity works in an economy. They would lose health if they didn't have enough food at the end of the class. They would need their skills to build farms or to build other amenities and utilities that they needed in their shelters. And they would want to keep track of the things they might find or build together to improve their community. But there was always scarcity to think about. The first couple of days, they were a bit thrown off by the game because it was not quite something they were used to. And I was using also the web platform Resli to keep track of their learning. So while they were working on improving their community, they discovered that if they did the assignments that I gave them to learn about economy, they would level up their skills. That could be labor skills that would help with building things like farmlands. It could be research skills that would help them understand the artifacts that they found from the lost civilization. There was also a fight skill because defense is part of life. But also social skills and so on and so forth. So as the time went on, they understood that if I learn these concepts really well, my character is going to do fantastically in this game. And so that's how I sort of drew together the motivation and engagement from games to encourage them to learn. And these are some of the examples of how that manifested. So after a week or so, you would have the students in the hallway talk to the students from the other classes about, where are you on the map? Oh, we're not telling. And, I don't like the people who are leading us in our arc right now. Maybe we could join up and do a revolution. And they would choose different systems of government. How do we manage, how do we make decisions collectively? One arc went with direct democracy and lost a lot of time discussing everything all the time. The other went for some kind of authoritarian state and lost a lot of time when the leaders decided to pursue things that wasn't possibly the most optimal for the rest of the community. So they learned about systems of government too. And then at the end of the whole simulation, because I didn't want any of them to go for totalitarianism, but they didn't. But I did want to show them what totalitarianism does to an economic system. So I had a robot invasion towards the end of the weeks that we were working, where a bunch of robots took over all the arcs and told everybody exactly what they had to do in very small detail, paranoia style. And I think that kind of worked in terms of teaching them how to not run an economy. But all of these effects, all these behaviors that the students exhibited was what I was hoping for, and what showed them how scarcity works. So skill specialization, collaboration, collective decision making. Do we need taxes? What for? Ah, okay. And also all the initiatives they would come with. A student built an art gallery. Another one built a very advanced septic tank system for community waste treatment that cleaned up a lot of their food, by the way. So they were feeling much better as characters over time. So yes, there was a lot of positive engagement and discussion between the students about scarcity and about how to make collective decision making and so on. Quite advanced discussions, I would say. Now, if we go back to the three criteria to sort of tie up the presentation here. It was monodisciplinary, that's the first criteria. We focused on economics, and any discussions on governmental systems was how does that affect your economy. It did communicate the textbook subject matter to the students. I admit that I complicated things by saying that the textbook was wrong about how it classifies the US and the Canadian system, because that's based on the 80s and things have happened, but that's because I'm a nerd. But the big problem here is I'm not sure that this can be easily replicated by another teacher, certainly not someone who is not used to game-based learning, to the tools that I use like Resli, never seen year zero. And that's something that me and Mr. Cozy talked about afterwards, that maybe we can do something. So this is what's coming next this summer. My wife is very graciously helping me to put this into some form of artifact that we can give to other teachers, so they can use. And I have no idea what's going to happen after that, but I'm dying